In this lesson, we demonstrate how to use the Adobe Media Encoder, which is bundled with Flash Professional CS6, to encode video files specifically for use within Flash. So here we have Adobe Media Encoder, and when you install Flash Professional CS6, this will be installed along with it. And it allows us to go through and encode any sort of media for consumption in Flash Professional, or a variety of other applications that come with the Creative Suite. So to add something to the queue, we simply go to the queue and hit this little plus button here. And this will allow us to search for a source. Here I have this particular source. It's an MTS file. And I'm going to say open. And this is going to bring that directly in for us with a bunch of defaults. This MTS file was simply created from a video camera that I have and just brought onto the hard drive, so it hasn't been processed at all aside from that. So let's have a look at some of the options we have here. We can go in and change any of these things manually. So right now we're targeting F4V, which is basically an H.264 encoded file that is being targeted in a Flash-friendly container. For these attributes here, we have match source attributes, and we can see what those are by hovering over. We can see that it's 1920 by 1080, same as source, frames per second, progressive. It gives us all those different attributes. And then we can specify what the name of the file is and the path when it will actually encode. So there are a number of presets over on the side here, which makes decisions like what to set these things are very, very easy. So if we're targeting devices, it breaks it down by Android, Apple, general mobile settings, different tablets, TiVo, and so forth. We can target DVD and Blu-ray, web video, and you can see that right here, we've got the ability to target Flash. So when we target Flash, Adobe Media Encoder is going to want us to use F4V or FLV. F4V again is H.264, so it's basically the same thing that you would get on an MP4 file, except it's in a different container type. And then FLV is using an older codec that's useful within Flash. We also have Vimeo, and you can see that's just straight up H.264. And YouTube, which is also straight H.264 with all these different settings. Which particular setting you choose is going to depend upon your target, of course, and whether there are actually going to be multiple targets. So for instance, if you're going to be supplying this video file for use within Flash Player for playback, but you also want to target the HTML5 video tag, a good choice would be one of the MP4 H.264 targets supplied by Vimeo or YouTube. However, if you're targeting just Flash, you'd probably want to just use this F4V file type. I want mine to be compatible with most everything, so I'm actually going to choose from the YouTube settings one of these H.264 types here. And I have a 1080p video right now, so I'm actually going to want to retain the quality of that and the resolution. So I'm going to choose one of these. And I happen to know that my video was encoded at 24 frames per second. So I'm actually going to choose that. To actually apply this to my video, all I need to do is drag it over onto the video file itself. So by default, I've got two outputs right now. I don't necessarily want two outputs. And I definitely don't want this F4V. So I'm going to actually delete that by just clicking that little fellow there. So maybe I also want a smaller version that is more friendly for Flash. So in that case, I could go into this Flash dialog here, and let's say I want to create a 512 by 288 version of this file, and I want an F4V. So let's drag that up there too. So this will give me a good amount of nudge room here. So targeting a very high quality and a rather low quality file. Let's hit play, and it looks like a play button, but it's really start queue. So it's going to process all these videos for us. And if we expand this here, we can watch these videos actually being encoded for our use. You can see it's fairly quick, depending upon, of course, what the source file is actually encoded in and what the target, the final output file, what we've chosen as a preset. The time is going to vary, of course, but you can even see that it's doing both at the same time. So we just need to wait for that to complete. So here one has completed, and we're just waiting for this second one here. This bar up top, of course, gives us overall progress. All right, so the files have completed encoding. So now we can actually go into our file system and see that indeed we have an F4V file here. We've also got our MP4 file that was created. And here's our original MTS file. We can also compare and see that this MTS file is pretty large at 57 megs. The MP4 that was created at the same exact resolution is 21 megs. But then the F4V file that we created, that is a much smaller resolution, is really only 1.6 meg. So this F4V could be used progressively over the internet. However, this MP4 file, you'd probably want to use a streaming server to actually deliver this, like Flash Media Server or Wowza, or any of the other servers that are available to actually stream video to Flash content. So this has been an example of how to use Adobe Media Encoder to apply presets and target various file types within Adobe Media Encoder CS6.